Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield talking to some of the world's biggest stars, some of my favourite people, and stars who know how to own a stage. Mark Adams has been playing Dean Martin for many, many years. He's coming to the Darlington Civic on the 28th of March. He's currently on tour. And I think we spoke about 400 years ago. How are you, Mark?
I'm very, very well. I think it was 450 years ago, actually.
It probably is, because you've been at this for a while and you are frankly at the top of your game. I mean, your career's been interesting. You've done everything from acting to musical theatre, of course, TV. But this has been the thing that's sort of defined you, hasn't it? Is it good being Dean Martin?
I think Dean Martin would say it was good being Dean Martin. No, because I think that's what he did, and I think that's what certain characters of that day did. They had to sort of like create their own vocal style. I think he said initially everyone followed Crosby, but then they all found their own style, including Sinatra and himself. But what I think really defined Dean, and whether it defines me, I don't know, but really defined Dean, is that when he split from Jerry Lewis and he was on his uppers, he had to create an act, and that's when the persona of Dean Martin, this kind of lovable drunk, of which of course he wasn't, but that's when that sort of was created, and that's what everyone associated for him. And he would always say, I'm not a big star, I'm a personality, but it was a personality that he had to create himself, if you know what I mean.
And of course there was the original bromance, wasn't there, between the Rat Pack? I mean, they really were true friends, and the stories I hear out of Las Vegas, I go back every year, I'll be there again in May, always astound me. And this year, of course, Frank would have turned 100. I just wish I'd have got to see them live, because it was stunning. Those videos are still impressive, even by today's showbiz standards.
Yeah, I mean, there's a classic one, which was the 1965 concert they did in St. Louis, which was a Sinatra sort of benefit for Dismas House, and there Johnny Carson hosting that one. And as far as I know, it was really the only proper Rat Pack video footage ever made. It was shown on closed circuit television at the time, and there's lots of bootleg footage of all five of them at the Sands, but this was properly made, and it oozes out of all of them their talent, how comfortable they are with each other, how easy they made really difficult things look. And I think that's a test of a great performer, how easy you make it look, because believe you me, it ain't. And especially in front of that cutting cold lens of the camera, Dean Martin really knew how to play those cameras, and he looked so fantastic, and he was so cool.
What I love about your performance in recreating it is that you have to sort of make him look like he's drunk, but he's not drunk acting as if he is drunk. There's sort of a triple gag, isn't there?
Yeah, it really is, and that's what he played as well. I mean, he did it to there's a fantastic interview that he made when he was Greg Garrison, who was his producer on the great TV variety shows he had. And when Greg Garrison first went to meet him, play his Vegas show, Greg Garrison, who got to know him probably better as a performer than anybody, including Sinatra, was absolutely dumbfounded when he met him afterwards. And he said, "Oh, hi, you're coming to direct all my shows," and he said, "I've just seen you stagger around the stage for an hour and a half." Mm-hmm. So convincing as a drunk. You don't overdo it. You're so subtle, trying to pretend you're not drunk, and you're actually stone cold sober. And he said, "Yeah, it's apple juice in the glass," and he totally convincing, and that's difficult, because you have to. You've got to be, as you say, a drunk pretending not to be drunk, who is a bit drunk, and and increasingly over the night, as a bit more gets imbibed, you push it.
And what I love as well is they were the creators and really the people who developed the American word shtick. I mean, that's what they did on stage. They came on and just gave a show from the second they arrived, and that chemistry between them was extraordinary. How difficult is it for you when you swap the cast to make that work between the new Frank or the new Sammy or whoever you're on stage with?
Yeah, well, I think that's why we've made this sort of like decision now. Myself, Stephen Triffett, who's been playing Frank for as long as I've been playing Dean, possibly longer, and George Daniel Long, who was original Sammy Davis, is that we thought if we want to take this to the nth degree, we've got to work together as much as we possibly can, and that's exactly what we're doing now. So the shtick, it kind of almost becomes organic. We know we haven't got a script. We and I'm sure they didn't have a script. I dare say, nicked a few gags off Johnny Carson or got somebody like, Don Rick or whoever. Oh, you say that gag here, but they knew what they were going to do. It wasn't scripted. It wasn't lit in such a way. It wasn't choreographed in such a way. And that's what we want to try and make it do now. And it is easier when you're working with people you are very, very comfortable with.
My favourite story of Sinatra was the Don Rickles story, where he was out for dinner with a girl trying to get laid, and it didn't go so well. So he goes over to Frank, who was also having dinner with the Rat Pack, and he said, "Would you come over and just say, 'Hi, Don, how you doing?'" This is the great Frank Sinatra. And he went over and he said, "Hi, Don, how you doing?" And Don said, "Not now, Frank, I'm busy." Classic. I love all that.
It is brilliant. Here's another one for you. You might have heard this one, but they've done the Vegas nightclub. They're all sort of having, Frank's holding court. The Jack Daniels is flowing, and Dean says, "I'm off to bed. I'm playing golf in the morning. Good night." And Frank says, "No, Pally, you can't leave. Come on, we're just getting going." And Dean said, "No, I'm playing golf. I'll see you in the morning. Good night." So Frank calls up a young lady and gives her $1,000 and says, "Look, go upstairs and give my Pally a good time." So of course she goes upstairs, knocks on the door, says, "Mr. Martin, Mr. Sinatra sent me here with $1,000 to give you a good time." Dean, "Here, honey, here's another $1,000. Go downstairs and tell Frank I was great."
Oh, fantastic.
It's not to care, never let through get in the way of a good story. But that was him. He'd be the one you think, "Oh, Dean might be up all night drinking, blah blah blah." No, he was playing golf before the dew had left the ground. He would phone the police when there's a party at his house to complain about the noise.
They were the good old days. I don't think they'll ever be recreated.
You look at all three of them. I mean, Sammy Davis started at 5. Frank Sinatra was, they'd all really, really paid their dues. Dean didn't no one really knew who he was until he was 29.
Yeah.
So they'd really got they'd sort of got the miles in the bank. So when it came along, they were ready for anything. They really, truly were ready for anything. They'd certainly paid their dues. Sinatra, in particular. I'd met Dean's daughter a few times, and she told me the story when they kind of got back together again very late on in their lives, because Sinatra didn't like the way Dean sort of performed when they went on the Back Together Again tour. He thought Dean was unprofessional, drunk, but he wasn't. He was on painkillers, which made him look that way. But eventually they made up. But if he cut you out, you got to sort of do something pretty amazing to get back in favour.
And vocally, how challenging are those songs by Dean Martin? Because they're not My Ways and New York, New Yorks. I mean, Everybody Loves Somebody or something like that. They're mellifluous, aren't they? They're great singers' songs. Are they challenging?
No, it's a perfectly straight answer to that. They're not challenging in as much vocally are they demanding. They're in an easy, they're easy listening. He would say, "I'm easy on the ear." That I'm not great. I'm not Tony Bennett. I'm not Frank Sinatra. I'm easy on the ear. But he had such a good vocal style, and I want to listen to all of the things he did. The early stuff when it was very Italian, and he was a good baritone, very, very good baritone. But then he had a real love of country music, and he recorded some great country albums, which some great country ballads. And when he was singing live, if he missed out a verse, he missed out a verse. He didn't want to sing, or he wanted to change the lyrics. Great, and you've always got to be mindful of that. But he also made some really, really good recordings. And some of his country stuff it's up there against any country singer, I think.
You're a remarkable actor, Mark, and you've done so much over the years. When I look at your CV, I mean, you've done every TV show that's worth doing. You've been in so many theatres doing every production that you would want to do as an actor. It must be great for you to still be in work and be wanted. I mean, it's an extraordinary CV, and what a wonderful life.
Well, if you're going to play anybody, and I don't say tribute, I don't call us a tribute act. I mean, I think it goes way, way beyond that, especially when you think of what we've done and what we're still doing. But if you're going to do someone, if you're going to do an Elvis or a Freddie Mercury, Elton John, do a Dean Martin, because it's not just about sounding like him and putting the clothes on like him. It's the whole package. As I said, Dean Martin became Dean Martin. He had to create this thing, and that it's 3 dimensions. It's more than that. That's what appeals to me. Not just to go in and sing a few songs, but what made this guy tick? What really was underneath it? And never ever did the same thing twice. I mean, you talked about Frank Sinatra Jr., who famously said that his father never sang the same song once. He was always very different. I've got loads and tons. When Dean's doing the show at the Sands, and you know it's the fifth show in, it's still different. You know, he'll never do the same thing twice. So he kept it fresh, and as long as I can keep it fresh and it still floats my boat, then, I can, he lived till 778, so I've got a few years left.
Well, congratulations. You're an amazing act, and I wish you all the best with this tour through the summer. I guess this is a big year for you, isn't it? You're going to be out doing the Rat Pack with Sinatra's 100.
Yes, it is because of this. I mean, there's lots of things happening. I know Sinatra Jr.'s coming over. They're doing the old Blue Eye show back at the Palladium again. Stephen's got some shows coming up. We're going to be relatively busy, but next year, oddly enough, is going to be even busier because we've got like a 4-month tour of Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, which is really exciting because that's with the new show. So we've got to come up with something now.
Great, congratulations. Always nice to talk to you. Mark Adams is the big star who not only plays Dean Martin, but he is Dean Martin when you see him. It's extraordinary. He's at the Civic Theatre, Darlington, on the 28th of March. You can see him there in Ireland this week as well. Great to talk to you. Thanks for your time, Mark.
No, my pleasure. Absolutely. Let's meet again in the next 400 years.
Yeah, love to. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Bye now.